The North Lawn there. John, good morning.
Bill, good morning to you. This was a law that was actually passed back in 1996 during the Clinton administration to allow for the swift deportation of people who were either undocumented or had committed fraud or misrepresentation. In the original application of the law, which began around 2004, it targeted people within 14 days of arrival and within 100 miles of the southern border. Under this expanded application of the law that the Trump administration wants to undertake, people could be targeted within 2 years of arrival and beyond 100 miles of the border, basically anywhere in the country. The expansion being undertaken because detention facilities are full, resulting in more illegal migrants being released into the United States. In a statement announcing the expansion, the acting DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan saying, quote, "The new designation adds one more tool for DHS, utilizing specific authority from Congress to confront the ongoing security and humanitarian crisis on the southwest border and throughout the country. We are past the breaking point and must take all appropriate action to enforce the law along the U.S. borders and within the country's interior. This designation makes it clear that if you have no legal right to be here, we will remove you." The ACLU says it is going to challenge this in court immediately. California Senator Dianne Feinstein, in a statement of reaction, saying, quote, "Today's announcement that the administration will quickly deport immigrants anywhere in the country without giving them their date in court is just one more attack on our immigration system and the rule of law. What we're seeing is a sustained attack on immigrants. Considering our country's history as a bastion of freedom and a beacon of safety, it's a shame that the president feels the need to go after immigrants in this manner. I urge him to reconsider these irresponsible, callous actions." Again, this was a bipartisan bill passed in 1996. Guatemala also in the crosshairs of the administration today after reneging on a plan to become what's known as a safe third country where migrants from Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and other countries could apply for asylum in the United States. The president tweeting, "Guatemala, which has been forming caravans and sending large numbers of people, some with criminal records, to the United States, has decided to break the deal they had with us on signing a necessary safe third agreement. We were ready to go. Now we are looking at the ban, tariffs, remittance fees, or all of the above. Guatemala has not been good. Big U.S. taxpayer dollars going to them that was cut off by me 9 months ago." This first came up last week after a constitutional court in Guatemala blocked the president, Jimmy Morales, from declaring Guatemala as a safe third country. In a cabinet meeting last Tuesday, I asked the president about it. Listen here.
So if they're not going to play ball, that's okay with me. We're not going to play ball with them. We don't give them any more money. They've been ripping us off for years. I'm not a fan.
And some breaking news in just the last half hour. Immigration and Customs Enforcement giving us a readout on the number of people arrested in those expanded interior enforcement actions in an operation that targets criminal illegal migrants between May 13th and July 11th. 899 people with final orders of removal were arrested by ICE. Of those, 605 had criminal convictions. 93 were facing pending criminal charges. And then in other enforcement actions, 35 people were arrested. 18 of those were members of family units with final orders of removal. 17 were so-called collateral arrests, people who were found to be in the country illegally and were arrested by ICE. A lot of news on the immigration front this morning.
Indeed it is. A lot to track. Thank you, John. Done so well. John Roberts from the White House. Thanks.
The Justice Department warning Robert Mueller to restrict his testimony tomorrow to only what is already covered in his public report, as the former special counsel prepares to appear before two House committees tomorrow on his 2-year investigation. Ohio Congressman Brad Wenstrup joined us earlier, and he will be one of them questioning Mueller tomorrow. Here he was earlier on America's Newsroom.
I think that Mr. Mueller will try to stay within that scope. We've all read the report, so there isn't much to go into further, but I think that you're going to see some theater. There's obviously an obsession to continue by some to go after President Trump and his team, and I think that that's going to be just one more opportunity for them to try and make a public spectacle of it, even though the report has said no collusion.
John McCormack joins us now. He's a Washington correspondent for the National Report.
I do. You know, he already gave his one statement saying that the report is his statement. He has nothing more to add. The Justice Department has told him to stay within those parameters. And, there's no reason to think that he would go beyond that. Mueller has been a man of his word. And I think that, the congressman's reference to theater gets it just about right. This is political theater, like much of politics. So Democrats are going to be hoping basically just to get Mueller to recite some of the, worst aspects of the report. If not illegal, then immoral behavior, misleading lies told by, the president and his associates. I think you're going to see a lot of focus maybe going back to the Trump Tower meeting where Donald Trump Jr., met with representatives of Russia who had said they had dirt on Hillary Clinton, didn't end up having it, but, they came in for a lot of criticism there. Even Steve Bannon, the president's former chief strategist, thought that was appalling. So I think this is political theater. This is we've got the information there in black and white in the Mueller report, but for audio and visual learners, Democrats are going to hope to get some new sound bites for cable news to make.
Well, and the question is whether or not they will. With obviously that warning from the DOJ to not have Robert Mueller say anything beyond the scope of that report. But both sides clearly see this as a political opportunity. And we heard from Wenstrup, they've been preparing for this. Republicans, Democrats, the questions that they will ask, yes or no type questions. I mean, we're going to see some serious strategies deployed in these hearings tomorrow.
Yes, and one risk for the Democrats, I would say, is that the more you make this case towards impeachment, there's just sort of this logic where they're going to have to vote on it eventually. I mean, just last week, Congressman Al Green of Texas showed that any member can go rogue if Pelosi doesn't want him to. She can't stop him from introducing a resolution, and that resolution is privileged, which means it must be dealt with in 2 days. Now, they can table it, they can refer it to committee or something. I think Pelosi wants to drag her feet on this as long as possible. Say we're investigating, and once voting actually starts happening in the Democratic primaries, then Pelosi can say, well, now the voters should decide. I don't know. The more the case is made in public, that there was obstruction, which is a very big debate between Republicans and Democrats. I think that there's just sort of this internal logic that's going to push them towards another vote on impeachment on something to do with the Mueller investigation.
All right, and we are awaiting the president. We'll see if he has any specific words on the upcoming hearings tomorrow when he takes that stage. Meanwhile, what we do know is that Reps Omar and Tlaib plan to go to Israel next month. And Bill McGurn over the Wall Street Journal took this on this morning in his piece titled, Thelma and Louise Go to Israel, highlighting the point that Benjamin Netanyahu can ban them from coming. He says that he does not plan to do so. In this piece, he writes the Democratic Party's Thelma and Louise Reps Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are taking their act to Israel, and a great gift to Donald Trump. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is going to let them in. He makes the case that this will help highlight the divide within the Democratic Party if they were to actually travel there.
I think that's right. Given their histories, I think it's quite likely that they will offer some inflammatory rhetoric. They're pushing for, boycotts and sanctions, basically treating Israel like a pariah, worse than Iran or North Korea, even from their perspective. So that's a very extreme position. It helps Republicans when the focus is on that and not the comments that many, even Republicans, called bigoted last week about, sending Omar back and that they should go back to their countries where they came from when, of course, they're American citizens.
I'll finish with this last bit from McGurn's piece. The squad is now in the driver's seat of the Democratic debate. They are not letting go of the wheel, even if it means a la Thelma and Louise taking the whole car over a cliff. John McCormack, great to talk to you this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Also new this morning, there is an investigation underway into the mysterious death of a student at the University of Mississippi. The body of a 21-year-old woman said to be discovered by a sheriff's deputy about 20 miles from the Ole Miss campus. Law enforcement now saying they suspect foul play. Jonathan Seri picks up the story from there in Atlanta. Jonathan.
Hi, Bill. Well, friends say that Allie Kostel had no enemies and was the type of person who would help anyone out. They can't understand why anyone would want to bring her any harm. She was last seen in Oxford, Mississippi late Friday. The very next day, Lafayette County deputies on routine patrol discovered the victim's body near Harmontown. Neighbors tell Fox 13 Memphis the body was found by a picnic table near Sardis Lake, a popular gathering spot, and WBLT reports she had been shot 8 times. Back in Allie's home in suburban St. Louis, her father Keith posted on Facebook, "We were visited by the Sunset Hills, Missouri police who communicated to us that our beautiful dear Alexandria Allie Kostel was the victim of a homicide." A student at University of Mississippi, Allie was studying marketing, attending summer school, and leading fitness classes. The interim chancellor at Ole Miss issued a statement saying, "We are truly saddened by the death of Alexandria Costel. Allie was a valued member of our campus community. We extend our deepest sympathy to her family, friends, and classmates and stand ready to support them during this time." The investigation continues into who is responsible for Allie's death. Bill?
Going to dig deeper in this in a moment, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan Seri there. Allie's case continues with a former FBI detective a bit later this hour. We will bring that to you as
countries in turmoil. They're having demonstrations all over Iran. Their inflation rate's at 75%. They have a lot of problems.
Well, that was President Trump blasting Iran, saying the regime is lying about arresting 17 spies working in Iran for the CIA. Let's bring in Harry Katsianis, Director of Korea Studies for the Center for the National Interest. Harry, good morning to you. Give us your take on the situation with Iran at this moment, considering all the developments.
Well, Sandra, the president's spot on here. I mean, the bottom line is that the Iranians are on the ropes. Their economy's in crash. It's basically in depression right now at this point. And I think the president has done the hard thing here. What he could have done is what a lot of presidents would have done, is just let the Iran nuclear deal go forward. But we all know in 10 to 12 years, the deal would have ended. The Iranian economy would have been in a very strong position, and probably Tehran wouldn't have wanted to renegotiate the deal. So the president did the most difficult thing he could. He ripped up the deal. He put the pressure on the Iranians. And I think now they're just flailing to try to do anything to try and, resolve this. But making up lies about CIA officers is not a good idea.
John Hanna, former national security advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney, had this to say on Iran's strategy.
They were hoping that the Europeans were going to be intimidated here and back down and oppose the United States. Instead, we've got a larger Western naval presence off the Iranian coast. The Iranians are pulling out all the stops, trying to, in any way they can, to escape these crushing international sanctions that the United States has imposed on them, and nothing is working.
What you hear time and time again from Iran is that they will not negotiate or open talks until those sanctions are dropped, because it has been crippling their economy.
Sandra, I think that's silly. I think the Iranians need a deal. I think they realize that. I think the deal that would make sense is the Iranians would forever never say that they would ever get a nuclear program or any sort of nuclear weapons. But what they also have to do, Sandra, is they have to forgo any ballistic missile technology. Because even if they're not building nuclear weapons right now, if they're building the missiles that could carry those warheads in the future, that is an existential threat to Israel, the United States, our European partners. So there is a two-part deal that could be done. The question is, will Tehran come to the table?
Now to the situation in North Korea, Harry, and your new piece published on FoxNews.com for all to read. Increased U.S.-North Korea tensions could return them to the brink of nuclear war. You write in this piece, Harry, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un seems to believe that President Trump broke a promise. That's a big problem. In the worst-case scenario, it could return the U.S. and the North to the brink of a catastrophic nuclear war. It could all be due to a simple understanding. Please explain, Harry.
Sandra, there was reports a few days ago that the North Koreans were upset that somehow President Trump made a promise to Kim Jong-un along the DMZ about a month ago now that he wouldn't conduct any joint military exercises with South Korea. Well, I have to tell you, I have polled multiple senior White House officials, senior officials in the Blue House in South Korea. Nobody can corroborate that story. Now, did President Trump make a promise after the first summit with Kim Jong-un in Singapore that they would not do joint military exercises at that time? Yes, he did. He called them war games. He called them expensive. That is all public record. But the North Koreans need to understand that militaries aren't going to just sit idle forever. They do have to train. In fact, Kim Jong-un just yesterday debuted a brand new ballistic missile submarine to the entire world. So I think, trying to put these sort of promises on President Trump, it's a big mistake.
Harry, I know you ended that piece with talking about how these talks still remain so fragile, and every single word you write, no matter how seemingly inconsequential, matters. We'll keep watching all of it, Harry. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.
Here's a live image now. Washington, D.C. Fox News alert. The president is in the room, apparently set to address the Teen Summit Action Summit in Washington. We're going to monitor this. We'll bring it to you for some news in a moment. Plus, there is this. Roll it.
People of Puerto Rico are great. And the people of Puerto Rico like me, and they should, because nobody's given them what I give them.
To be recent and have received equal condemnation as officers with the NYPD are seen doused in front of cheering bystanders. Check out this video taken from someone in Harlem as two NYPD officers making an arrest, getting pelted with water and hit with a red bucket thrown at one of their heads. And again, this is in the middle of them handcuffing someone as the crowds jump and holler with glee. In the second video shot in Brooklyn, officers are seen calmly walking away from people throwing buckets of water at them, as bystanders can be heard laughing, even cackling at points. As the videos go viral, reaction is coming in from law enforcement. The NYPD chief of patrol tweeting this. The videos of cops being doused with water and having objects hurled at them as they made an arrest in Harlem is reprehensible. NYC's cops and communities have made remarkable progress together, but every New Yorker must show respect for our cops. They deserve nothing less. And while New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio has called the incidents completely unacceptable, some current and former law enforcement have lashed out against de Blasio for what they call the lack of respect being shown to NYPD officers.
Look at this progressive mayor that has tied the hands of the police. So he's taken away stop and frisk. He's taken away many of the tools that they could use, the broken windows theory. And you create a reactive or less than reactive police department when in a city like this, you need a proactive police department.
NYPD issuing a statement today saying the people who committed these acts are currently unidentified and an active investigation is underway. We'll have more as it develops.
Okay, Laura Engel here in New York City on that. Thank you.
Fox News. President Trump soaking it all in here in front of that group in Washington. He's expected to speak to a young group of conservatives on that stage.
We've been watching the monitor for the past 45 minutes. They are fired up. Don't know how many people are in the room. It's several thousand at least, but here we go, and they are vocal as well. Nation's capital, Washington, D.C. There was a video that ran, Sandra, that we were watching in the commercial that looked like it lasted about 15 minutes, and it was clearly, based on what we could observe, a campaign video that all of America is going to be seeing over the next 15 months or so. All right, here we go. Washington, D.C., the Teen Summit is now underway.
I'm excited to be here today with thousands of proud young American patriots. You're great people. You're great people. You're the future. You're the future. On behalf of my entire administration, thank you to everyone at Turning Point USA's Teen Student Action Summit. What a group. What a group. They don't realize there's more of you than there is of them. They just haven't figured that out yet. They'll understand. They'll figure it out someday. They're still trying to figure out what the hell happened. What happened? How did this happen? You've come to our nation's capital from cities and towns across America. You've given up a big part of your summer, which many young people are not willing to do, and we understand that too, but what you're doing is fun, and it's important, so important. You've paid and paved your own way to get here, and in some cases it wasn't easy, and you've done it for all of us. You've done it for one simple reason. You are loyal to our nation, you are devoted to your fellow citizens, and you will always put America first. I want to thank my great friend, and he's a young friend. He's a pretty young guy, Charlie Kirk. I said, how old are you, Charlie? He's a young one. He gave me a number I won't say, but he's younger than he even looks. But I want to thank Charlie. He's an incredible guy. His spirit, his love of this country. He's done an amazing job. He's done something that is just incredible for somebody really of his age. You need tremendous talent to do what he's done. building one of the most powerful youth organizations ever created, Turning Point USA. And I want to thank you, really, Charlie. Incredible job. The young leaders here today are part of a movement unlike anything in the history of our nation. There's never been anything like this. And the fake news doesn't even talk about it because, but when I say it, they don't correct me. They don't say, oh, he gets a Pinocchio. They can't, because it's true. It's true. You know, they can find fault with anything, but they never talk about that because we won. You know, there have been some pretty good movements, and they won New Hampshire, or they won a state someplace, but they didn't win the whole ball game. And you saw what we won, and you could see it, we could feel it, we knew it was going to happen, because it's a movement about reclaiming your future, rebuilding your country, and restoring your destiny, and renewing the values that are the true source of American greatness. We lost those values, and we're getting them back rapidly. We're getting them back rapidly. Just backstage, a gentleman, very rich gentleman in this case, came up, sitting on one of these rows, I assume. Yeah, there he is. He said, sir, thank you for saving our country. And I said, thank you very much. And, you know, I said, thank you very much. And I looked at Charlie. I said, Charlie, do you have any idea how many people say that? I gave the commencement address at the Air Force Academy recently and at Annapolis the year before. And they said, sir, would you like to shake the hands of all the cadets? I said, how many are there? 1,100. I said, yeah, that sounds okay. I say, do other presidents do it? Yes, they do. Do all of them? Yeah, they do. What they didn't say is they start and then they peter out and they go back, because it's tough. It was really hot. That sun was beaming down. And I'm just one hand. And some of these guys are great athletes. And some of the women, they had some women in the class that their hands were very strong, okay? And they were all shaking. And, you know, they're a little nervous. Maybe they're meeting the president. They're shaking strongly and, oh, sir. But, you know, with shaking 1,100 hands and saluting, we're saluting, shaking, turning, spinning, they're coming at all different directions. Felt like a great fighter pilot.
Well, so some of this now looks to be impromptu, a lot of it not, frankly. We want to bring this to you because we're watching for any comment on Mueller, because tomorrow at this time you're going to be in that hearing. When squeezing Karl Rove, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Fox News contributor with me now out of Austin. And Karl, good morning to you. You had two critical questions last night on Hannity. Today you have one. And you believe the Mueller thing is a bit of a contrarian force that works in favor of this president. Go ahead and explain your case on that as we...
Yeah, look, I do come at it from a slightly different viewpoint. If you look at it, before the Mueller report was issued and after the Mueller report issued, two things happened. The president's approval and disapproval ratings stabilized and began to rise. They'd hit a low point in the high 30s. Now they're sort of in the mid 40s. And second of all, the percentage of people who said they opposed impeachment grew after the Mueller report was released, dramatically among independents, the swing voters who will decide next year's election. So the Democrats tomorrow are putting a great deal of emphasis on the Mueller's testimony. I think the Republicans should not treat him as an adversary. Let me just stop you 1 second there. We're going to talk about Tlaib too. Just the president's talking about this right now too. I apologize for the interruption there.
She's lunatic. She's screaming. This is before she got into Congress. Who elected her? She's screaming like a total lunatic at one of our rallies. It's like I'm giving a little rally, and she starts screaming. And this is not a sane person, folks, when you look at that. And this is what we're up against. You have some of that. Now, the Democrats, I guess, are forced to embrace her, and I call it AOC plus 3. Okay? AOC plus 3. Not that AOC is a bargain, because she's not. I mean, she's no bargain. Look, I mean, we'll go into it at some point. I'll tell you all about AOC. I got more on AOC. AOC. But it's you know, what's going on with that party, having to embrace them. And your other friend from an incredible state, right? A state that I'm going to win, Minnesota. You know that one, right? And you know why I'm going to win the state? Because of her. I almost won it last time. We came with just about a point. Because Minnesota is a very hard one for a Republican to win. We almost won it one more night. I wanted to go there one more time. I said, I'm telling you, we're going to win Minnesota. You know who thought I was going to win Minnesota? You know who thought I was going to win Michigan and Wisconsin and North Carolina? Bill Clinton. He was telling everybody, you better be careful. He told people, from what I hear, he said, the one you don't want to run against is Trump. And they said, why? Oh, no, that's good. We want to run against you. No, you don't. You know, I actually knew him pretty well. We got along very well until I decided to run for office. We actually got along. But they didn't want to listen to him. But he was the only one with the instinct. The rest didn't have. So he came back and he said, you know, he's doing very well in Michigan. You could have a problem. They said, no, don't worry about Michigan. We haven't lost Michigan in decades. Then he came back. He said, you know, he was in Wisconsin or something. But he said he hears that I'm doing well in Wisconsin. They say, forget it. A Republican can't win Wisconsin. And then we won Wisconsin. Then he came back. And I say this with a certain old-time affection because I had a very good relationship with him before doing this. You know, now it's a little harder for him to have a good relationship. Yeah. But he said, you don't want to run against Trump. Don't run against Trump. And they were saying, no, that's okay. We like that. Remember President Obama? He will not win. He will not win. Okay, he goes, liar. Yeah. Hey, did Obama get a Pinocchio? That's right. Obama said he will not win. He will not be your president. The anger was unbelievable. You know what? He's right. He was a liar. Did you give Obama a Pinocchio, Washington Post? He said he will not win. These papers are so bad. So yesterday we had a story in one of the papers that I thought was good, but they're really not. You know, when you analyze, there's almost not too many of them that are. The wall. We're building a lot of wall. But well, let me just tell you. But there are areas where they have walls that are falling down, walls that are in such bad shape, we're trying to renovate as much as we can. And we have a provision, we can renovate, but we can't build new. So we're taking all these areas, and generally speaking, when you have an old wall that's falling down, it's in a better location for a wall. That's why they had it there in the first place, as opposed to an area that's empty. You know, typically that would be true. So these walls are old, they're crumbling, they're of no use, they're falling down. So we rip it up, build brand new foundations, pour brand new beautiful footings, and take a wall that's 2 or 3 feet high, mostly laying on the ground, some of it only for cars, you know, to stop cars from coming across, just a metal spike. So we'd rip it out. It would take about a minute. And we put in deep foundation, 7 feet deep, and we put in 30-foot bollards, and they're loaded up with concrete. Because inside, you know, I like doing that. One of the reasons they said, but you said you're going to build a concrete wall. So actually inside the steel we have. So we have both. We have steel and we have concrete. And I was saving that for later because the only thing they could do is he's building a steel wall. It's not concrete. Oh, sorry about that, folks, you know. And you do have to have vision. It's very important. You know, you can't just have a blank wall. You have to have vision. It's much better for the security to have the vision. Anyway, so we're building the wall. So they come out with Donald Trump has built almost no wall. What a lie that is. And we're building 50 miles here, 50 miles there, 50, all in the right locations because there used to be walls, but we had to take them down. In some cases, if they're good enough, we'll renovate it because we can do it for a lot less money. But generally, some of these walls are worthless. I mean, literally, you just drive right over them. They're laying down on their side. They gave me no credit. But if you read the story, they'll say, well, he has renovated a lot of wall. Well, that's not even a renovation, let's face it. That's a brand new wall. It's all brand new wall. And just shows you how dishonest this fake news is. And this is what we have to deal with. This is really what we have to deal with. But get used to it. Many of you are going to be in politics. Just get used to it, okay? Get used to it. Together, is this true? We believe in the American Constitution, and we believe judges should interpret our Constitution as written. You'll be seeing this. We believe in religious liberty, the right to free speech, and the right to keep and bear arms. Second Amendment. What a group. They are in the process of trying to take your arms away. You have the Second Amendment. They will do damage to the Second Amendment, the likes of which nobody even thought of. That's where they're coming from. Just remember I said it. Hopefully they never get the chance. And that's why the election coming up, I always said this is the most important election, 2016, most important election that we've ever had. And it was certainly the coolest, that's for sure. But it was, I believe, the most important election because our country was going wrong. It was going wrong. And when you see all the incredible numbers coming up and all the success that we're having and all the fact that we're respected all over the world, we have a really good man is going to be the Prime Minister of the UK now, Boris Johnson. Good man. He's tough and he's smart. They're saying Britain Trump. They call him Britain Trump, and people are saying that's a good thing. That they like me over there. That's what they wanted. That's what they need. That's what they need. He'll get it done. Boris is good. He's going to do a good job. I think Nigel's someplace in this audience. Where's Nigel? Where is he? Nigel Farage. He's here someplace. I saw him. I said, what is he doing here? He's a little older than most of you. Where is he? Nigel. Nigel. I'll tell you what, he got 32% of the vote from nowhere over in UK. Nigel, thank you, Nigel. I said, what's Nigel doing here? He's a little older than you folks, but he did a great job. And I know he's going to work well with Boris. They're going to do some tremendous things. But we believe in the American dream and not a socialist nightmare that these people are trying to put on our shoulders. And we know that strong nations must have strong borders. And we're building a strong border against so much, you have no idea. Every time I announce, as an example, a section of wall, I get lawsuits, they sue me. You know who sues me? Congressman. Congressman. I get sued by Nancy Pelosi. We won that suit. Can you believe it? I won one. We won a couple of them, but we have suits on the border. We had one judge. They always sue in the Ninth Circuit. You know what that means, right? They sue in the Ninth Circuit, which is sort of like an automatic victory. Although we did win one last week in the Ninth Circuit. Nobody can even believe it. You know what's happening, right? Do you know what's happening? So as of today, this is so important. There are those that say it's the most important. I would say war and peace and security, that's the most important. But they say the most important thing a president can do is the selection of Supreme Court justices, right? We have two. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. We have two. Already we have two. Some have gone a long time and they haven't had many and they haven't had any in some cases. So we have two already and they're great and they're good. But you know what people don't talk about? I've just signed the 124th federal district judge, federal judges underneath. And within a couple of months, I'll be up to 147. Think of that, 147. Because normally when you become president, you go in and you say, do I have any judges to appoint? No, they're all, because it's such an important thing. Because, you know, these district judges, they're the ones that do the trials. I mean, this is big stuff. And then you have Court of Appeals judges. Then you have the Supreme Court judges. So we have two in the Supreme Court. We have many appeals court judges, many that we've appointed. The courts are a whole different thing. But I will be up to 147, not including the two Supreme Court justices. Now, percentage-wise, I blow everybody away except one person. One person I'll never beat. You know who the one person is? Who? George Washington. He's got 100%. George Washington. But we're going to have a tremendous percentage, and after 6 more years, it'll go to a level that nobody will even be close. But George Washington's hard to beat because he put in 100%. He was there first. So he had but I have many more than George Washington. Remember that. George Washington didn't put in too many, but he had certainly the highest percentage. That will be a record will never be broken. We believe that every young American should love our country, honor our history, and always respect what? Our great American flag. How about the Betsy Ross deal? Isn't that terrible where they try and take your heritage away from you like that? Isn't that terrible? Isn't that terrible? And then you see the picture of President Obama with the same exact flag up. He should have taken it down. Why didn't he take it down? It's really very unfair what they do. They try and demean and belittle, and they're very good at it. They're better at that than they are at politics. They're better than that than they are at policy. Look at their policy. They want open borders, which means crime, which means drugs and human trafficking, which is a phenomena that you would think is thousands of years old, and that would have been their prime. No, the prime is now because of the internet. Women, mostly women, are being trafficked. And they go, not only in this country, all over the world. It's never been like this before. Human trafficking. They snatch women, and they traffic women, and they sell women. And we can get the Democrats to even give us a modicum of the money we need at the border, especially for the wall. I'm taking money from here and there and there and there. Let's take it from here. We have all these different sources coming from all over the place because they won't approve it. And 5 years ago, they all wanted it. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, they all voted for it. They never got it built, but they all voted for it. And today they make it so tough. You have to see, I'm doing everything I can, and we're doing well with it. But this should just be one nice fat sum where I can get the best 4 or 5 contractors, not worry about, I gave it out, but I have a lawsuit. And if the lawsuit happens, I have to undo it. How do you give a contract out where you have a contractor and he's going to build 67 miles of wall? We have one case. But we're being sued, our funding source, because we're taking it from a certain area. And so we're being sued. So we have to wait for the suit. I mean, how would you like to be building like this? Not good. It's not good. But we're getting it done anyway. But they should say, it's not working without the wall. You got to have the wall. You got to have, when they bum rush you, they did that last week. They rushed in a tremendous large number of people. By the way, you know why they're coming up, right? Because we have created the strongest economy in the history of our country. So they're coming because they want a piece of the economy. They're not coming up for safety and this, that. Do you ever see these people? They fly their flag. They come up from Guatemala, who, by the way, went back on their word to us. They were all set to sign a safe third agreement. And then today or yesterday, they announced they can't do it because they got a Supreme Court ruling. Their Supreme Court, right? They got to, in other words, they didn't want to sign it. So they're supposed to sign what's called a safe third. That's a good thing for us, okay? That's all I have to tell you. And they went back. So we're going to do either tariffs, or we're going to do a form of tax, or we're going to use our ban. You know, people don't realize we won the ban. You know, I saw one of the journalists, we'll call him, who happens to be back.
There's a number of topics he's gone through here. The wall and border security, AOC +3, which seems to be a new characterization for the 4 freshman congresswomen in the House. I just want to squeeze Karl Rove in here just to put a bow on this. Ilhan Omar today, Karl, talked about his inherent racism that's always been a part of him. That happened about 90 minutes ago, so he's returning volley on that. You believe they're doing this all on their own, and they're actually helping the president. More often they talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, we hear these weird ideas: abolish the Department of Homeland Security, abolish immigration and customs enforcement. We hear the over-the-top rhetoric. This new tape that surfaced of now Congresswoman Tlaib, before she was elected, literally standing up at a meeting of the Detroit Economic Club, at which President Trump, then candidate Trump, is giving a speech and screaming at him at the top of her lungs in order to interrupt his speech. And this is not a good image for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party now is being semi-hijacked by a group of 4 left-wing freshman members of Congress who are drowning out all that the Democrats are doing to pass measures through the House of Representatives and competing with the voices calling for the president's impeachment and the a left-wing socialist mindset and calls for impeachment are not advancing the Democratic cause.
Well, I would
for
just make that
2020.
Kellyanne Conway was with us yesterday. She said they love this. They love the attention. They'll keep at it. I imagine
Sure.
they will. There is truth to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, the president's got a good foil here. Look, think about it. The president's sitting there saying, "I want to secure our borders," and you have Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez saying, "I want to abolish the Department of Homeland Security. People ought to be able to go to the airport, get on with the box cutters. But we shouldn't have people at the borders, causing people to stop. They ought to be able to just run into our country. We ought to get rid of all those things that we built after 9/11 to protect and make America safe in the new environment in which we find ourselves." What better foil than this group of four?
Okay, we'll see how that goes and how Nancy Pelosi wrangles that or not. Quickly, tomorrow at this time, you're going to be hearing from Bob Mueller. You have one critical question on a whiteboard. I want to squeeze it in before we say goodbye.
Well, I have two, and I'll get them in. When they're going to bring up the issue of conspiracy and collusion. All they got to do is remind that the Mueller report says they did not find that the Trump campaign or anybody associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. Then they're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow, the Democrats are, on the issue of collusion. Of obstruction. And whenever they bring up one of these instances that filled the second half of the Mueller report, the Republicans just need to ask Mueller, do you still stand by the statement in your report that this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime? Do you still stand by that finding, Director Mueller? And they can help, by doing so, they can help continue the progress that the president's enjoyed, ironically, as a result of the Mueller report, which is it is stabilized his favorable unfavorables and driven up the percentage of people who say they oppose impeachment.
Okay, Carl, thank you. Just wanted to finish our conversation there. Thank you, sir, from Austin. We'll give it a go tomorrow when that hearing gets underway. As for now, the speech continues in Washington, D.C. Sandra?
It does indeed. And the president tweeted out a lot this morning. Started out, keep America great. Congratulated Boris Johnson on becoming the new prime minister in the UK. And then he was leaving for Turning Point USA, at which he's speaking now on that stage to a group of young conservatives. He has a big day tomorrow when this testimony will be happening. He says maybe he'll watch a little bit of it. We'll see. But big week.
Could be some live tweeting, too. We believe here's the format for tomorrow. Brett and Martha come on about 8:15 in the morning. The first hearing expected to begin at 8:30. Said to run about 3 hours. About a 30-minute break. Then the second hearing will begin around noon Eastern based on the schedule. That'll last about 2 hours, and we'll see together what we get when it's all done. But tomorrow is the day. Mueller's on the Hill.
Tomorrow is the day. So tune in for coverage starting live at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And thank you for joining us right here. And it'll be a big day tomorrow. We'll see you then. Outnumbered.